So, good evening and welcome back to my show. Tonight I have a special guest, and his name is Michael Addario, and he comes from Michael Addario Photography. So, Michael Addario is a photographer and visual artist. He is also a fellow creator here on YouTube. He's had a passion for photography since he was a child growing up in Philadelphia. He eventually followed his passion and studied photography at the Community College of Pennsylvania. Of Community College of Philadelphia, eventually relocating to San Francisco Bay Area, where he worked for Macy's, Hewlett Packard, and major high-tech companies in Silicon Valley. His images have been featured in National Geographic twice, and for the last 2 years, Michael Addario Photography has expanded into drones, including his FAA Part 107 license. Tonight we are showing Michael Addario's Blow Up Moscow 11/13/2022 series. And this is a really popular series. We have featured it in several times in this live stream. So please welcome a viewer favorite, Michael Addario. Hi, Michael.
Hi, Rose. How are you? Hi to the audience.
Thank you so much for visiting our show tonight. It's great to have you on finally.
Rose, I'm getting an echo.
Oh, I'm not hearing it on my end. Do you possibly sorry guys, the bugs of live production. Do you happen to have two screens open?
I'm sorry.
Do you happen to have two screens open?
Oh,
we did talk.
I think that's it.
Oh,
can
okay.
Can you hear me now?
I hear you fine. It's
okay.
It happens to all of us. Trust me.
Sorry about that.
No, it's great. I'm so glad to have you here, though. So welcome to the show.
I'm glad to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, and I love your YouTube channel and the entire series that you have. I wish we could play all of those videos tonight. But on the other hand, I do want to encourage my guests to please just go visit your channel and watch the entire series for yourselves. And we have quite a few questions, and we're going to be showing you guys a couple videos tonight. So why don't we just go ahead and get right into it? So
great. Sounds good.
So you have a history of focusing on victims' rights. What drew you to the Idaho4 case, and what were the origins of your Blow Up Moscow 11/13/22 series?
Well, when I was a street artist, I went to testify a few times in public about different things that we were going through, and I found that it was not really the most effective way of doing that, because you go up, you say your speech for 3 minutes, and it gets lost. So I thought about doing films instead, and so it would be up there basically forever. I did a film about the street artists, and I thought we were being overcharged, and that was the start of it. And then I did a film on an incident that happened back in the 70s, where the Weather Underground allegedly blew up a police station and killed the sergeant. And I thought that it was vital to have this film digitized and put it on the internet. So I did that myself. Then I did the Sharon Tate, the Patricia Tate. I got into that, and I was interested in what had happened was our DA, George Gascon, was in San Francisco, and he was a terrible district attorney, and he moved to Los Angeles, and he started all kinds of trouble in Los Angeles. So I had found out that he did an edict that was that was geared to the perpetrators, and left the victims in the lurch. So what I did was I put that together with Patricia Tate, with her testimony, and unfortunately, Patricia Tate looks exactly like her sister Sharon Tate, and she did, and unfortunately, she's passed away. That's what I meant to say. but she testified at one of the meetings, parole hearings for Patricia Kerwinkle, which was one of the Manson family cult members. So I thought that that was pertinent to get that up there, and I felt the need to do that. When the Idaho 4 case happened, I was just curious because the whole their lives were all on Instagram, and I was it was very unusual. There's all these beautiful girls and handsome guys, and to be taken away like that in such a brutal way, it grabbed my curiosity, and so I went on Google Maps, and I was going down the street where the King Road King Queen intersection, and I saw all the shoes on the overhead lines, which can mean different things. It can mean kids are just playing around, or like we do when I was young, we used to do that. But it also can mean a gang. This is gang or drug territory. But then, as I was moving around at that intersection, I noticed a tree was blurred out, and I'm like, why would they blur out a tree? There's no reason for that. And that kind of started it. And I look back on Google Maps, you can look back years when they went through like a 2013 and see the difference. That area was totally overgrown. And that had something to do with the address being on King Road, where the front door was actually facing Queen Road. So I started looking around more and more, and I figured I actually waited a year to post my first film, because I wasn't sure that something else might come out, and I likened it to a movie I had seen back in the '60s, called Blow Up, and I don't know if you ever saw that movie, but it's about a photographer who goes to the park. He's just like uh, a swinging London '60s photographers shooting all these models, beautiful models, and things like that. And he's out one day and he goes photographs in the park, and he sees a couple, and he photographs them. And then when he gets home, enlarging it, he thinks he sees a body in the background, and he keeps enlarging it, enlarging it, enlarging it, till it becomes just nothing but grain. And he goes back and he doesn't find anything. But that's where I got the name Blow Up at Moscow, Idaho, because this is I thought it was similar to my experience being a photographer and finding out something, and drawing me in more and more to it. So,
I like it, and it's almost kind of like an analogy for what we're doing. We're always looking at photographs and blowing them up. So it's
hmm
a great title, and anyway, but I really appreciate the series. And since we're talking about it, to maybe just put it into context for the viewers, I think showing the first video in the series we're going to do, and I've got it pulled up right here. Let me share my screen.
so this was a process as I went through with part one to part four. I was learning more things and adding them, and sometimes I had to update what I had in the first one to the second one. Like the map, I updated from the first one to the second one. So
Well, so folks just keep that in mind. This is the very first of the series from a year ago, right? You posted this first video a year ago, isn't that right?
which one are you going to play?
We're playing part one. Hold on, and I don't think I saved it in my playlist here. Oh, that's part three. No, I'm just gonna go to your.
Yeah, part. Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. What were you saying?
Yeah, part one was about a year ago.
Yeah, the one that
a year after the crime, I should say.
it's the one that you have knocking on heaven's door. Here, I've got it right here. Oh no, that's the newest one we're gonna play in a minute.
Yeah.
Oh, that is still.
It's the one that has the picture of the group shot of them. which is a beautiful picture. I mean, looking at that picture, the group shot, it's to me very sad because that what Kaylee had posted with that, so great to be surrounded by these, these people, my friends. I'm paraphrasing, but she was so happy to be with them, and then hours later, four of them were gone. So a very poignant picture.
It's almost surreal. Yeah, I
Hmm.
agree with you. And well, let me share this screen and I'll let you guys see for yourself. And then after we're done with this, we're going to go right into some questions that kind of have to do with the video. And I hope you guys enjoy this. So.
Mama, take this badge from me. I can't use it anymore. It's getting dark, too dark to see. I feel I'm knocking on heaven's door. Knock, knock, knocking on heaven's door. Knock, knock, knocking on heaven's door. Oh, knock, knock, knocking on heaven's door. Knock, knock, knocking on heaven's door. Mama put my guns in the ground. I can't shoot them anymore. The cold black cloud is coming around, and I feel I'm knocking on heaven's door. Knock, knock, knocking on heaven's door. It feels like I knock, knock, knocking on heaven's door. It feels like I'm knock, knock, knocking on heaven's door. Oh, knock, knock, knocking on heaven's door. Knock, knock, knocking on heaven's door. Knock, knock, knocking on heaven's door. Feels like a knock, knock, knocking on heaven's door. Knock, knock, knocking on heaven's door. Mama, tell me, knock, knock, knocking on heaven's door. Feels like I'm knock, knock, knocking on heaven's door. Oh, knock, knock, knocking on heaven's door. Oh, knock, knock, knocking on heaven's door. on heaven's door.
So, Michael, that video is absolutely breathtaking.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm sorry about the connection. I blame Cape Cod. So, sorry. So I just want to ask you a couple questions about this video because it's so powerful, and
Hmm.
I think that some of it has become recently relevant and brought up. So I'll just ask these questions and see what you have to say. So in
Sure.
recent hearings for Brian Kohlberger, we heard Stingray bring up the Stingray device. You've done quite a bit of research on Stingrays. Could you please just tell my audience what a Stingray device is and what they're used for?
Well, the Stingray, the word Stingray is actually a generic term for a cell site simulator. And there's other terms for this product, this piece of equipment, a hailstorm. They have all different kind of names, and basically what it does is it mimics a cell phone tower. So your cell phone attaches to that before it will attach to the authentic cell phone tower. So what police can do is they can, or law enforcement, what they can do is they can locate a person. And that's what Cy Ray had said. But there's also um, somewhat of a flaw in this thing, this piece of equipment, that it can deny 911 calls. And I'm not really familiar with how that does it, but it has been in many published reports that I have in my film that this has happened. It has happened at uh, um, the some of the George Floyd protest. It happened at that in Oregon where they had the protest, the pipeline protest. Uh, the issue is a lot of times. Well, there's a lot of issues. Um, a lot of times the law enforcement uses this without a warrant, and there are published reports where they'll bring this information in, and the judge will kick it out and say, "You didn't have a warrant. This is a violation of the Fourth Amendment." Um, how this started, this from what I have researched, this all came out of 9/11, and when when the soldiers were in Iraq and they were setting the insurgents or the Taliban or whoever it was that we were fighting over there, um, they were using cell phones to set off IUDs, IEDs, I guess it is, and so they wanted to block that. They wanted to find, and they also wanted to find out where these people were calling from, so they could locate them, and they could block these cell phones. So that's where it all started, and then that came over to uh, the intelligence agencies, and that's why they have such a secrecy on this, because they didn't want this to get out into the public. At this point, um, there are published reports that say that 5G, if you have 5G, these pieces of equipment don't work that well. And I don't know if Idaho had 5G at that time. They might have had 4G cell service. So that might have been an issue that would let them do that. Um, so there's many reports that it blocks 911 calls. And when I was researching and I saw the published reports, and then I came across that one video on security researchers where he really explains it very well, and I used that in my last film. So there's multiple people that say that this happens, but a lot of times law enforcement, I mean, when they get this piece of equipment, they sign a non-disclosure agreement, and the non-disclosure agreement is, I mean, it's like bulletproof. You can't tell the attorneys, you can't tell the judge, you can't tell anybody that you're using this. And I was really surprised that Cy Ray mentioned it, because maybe he's not under the non-disclosure agreement anymore. But that was the first time that anyone said that a cell site simulator was being used, when he testified in court. I was actually went out on the limb, um, with my film, and so I speculated that it was in use, but he mentioned it. He didn't mention it that he didn't testify that they used it the way I'm saying they used it. He said that he thought that they were using it in a van, and he didn't realize why they were using it when they had eyes on him. And I believe it was stationary, and possibly in the house across the street from the blurred tree. So I'm speculating. That's my premise. So, oh,
When you're saying that, it brought up something that I'm not going to be asking you about, which is very important, is that we're looking at fixed locations right now, but these Stingrays can be portable from what I've learned, and they can be attached to drones. You mentioned a van, they can be in vehicles.
mhm.
You also mentioned that these are kind of off subject. I haven't brought this up to you, but I heard you mention once that these are actually pretty commonly used in DC. Did you mention?
Yeah, there is an issue in DC. Well, there's other governments that have these, and um, there was speculation that the Israelis were using it to track cell phones in DC. Um, the Israelis seem like they have, um, um, some of the best technology out there right now. There's um, there's a product called Pegasus that might be actually make all these Stingrays obsolete, because they work where they'll get into your phone, they'll install malware into your phone, and uh, be able to look into your phone, your contact list, your emails, turn the microphone on, do everything. And they think that and other governments have it beside the Israelis. So yeah, it's Pegasus. It's called Pegasus.
And don't the Stingrays have some sort of capability as well to do that malware? I think I read that.
Yeah, they can. From what I read, they can do that. I think it's a little harder to do that, but they can do that. They can um, drain your battery. They can install malware. They can um, turn on the microphone. So our cell phones are basically little spies in our pocket. Yeah, I mean, Edward Snowden basically said this, a couple years ago, and I just watched a great series on Frontline, the United States of Secrets, and it's on YouTube. It's a great series, and it goes through a lot of this, and most of all this stuff is open source. I didn't get any secret information from anybody, so it's just a matter of doing like a deep dive.
Same here. Same
Yeah.
here. I mean, there has been a couple of good articles written. I want to say there was one I read that you had noted in Spokane. What's it called? The Spokane, Washington newspaper or something.
Right.
Um, so based on your research, and we were just touching base on this, the term confidential informant, which we've heard a lot in the recent hearings, and we've all speculated on what they're talking about. But based on your research, the term confidential informant is typically associated with these devices called Stingrays. Isn't that so? And
it can be. They have used that before. They said we had a confidential source, and we're not telling you. We're not telling anybody who it is, and it was actually Stingray. The problem is, the way I understand it, um, for um, for the defendant to have a good defense, he has to be able uh, to look at his accuser and be able to see who the accuser is, and that's part of the Fourth Amendment. So when they say it's a confidential informant and we're not going to tell you that, and if they use this without getting a warrant, that it should be inadmissible in court. Now we'll see what happens, coming, because there are. I mean, Ann Taylor keeps saying we're going to, we have a lot of issues about some of this information. I mean, even anything in the house, I would think would be inadmissible. Really, I mean, the house could have been, and that judge on TV had said that the whole crime scene has been compromised. Anybody could have walked in there in 8 hours and done anything. So I think Ann Taylor is going to try to get basically anything in the house just removed from evidence. I mean, that's what I would do if I was a defense attorney, because I think she has good grounds. 8 hours, there were people in there that called their friends first. They walked all around, and so we'll have to see if my speculation is right on that. So, oh, mute. You're muted.
I was just saying, sorry, Michael.
That's okay.
But I don't know. I just was saying that we all have so many unanswered questions about that 8-hour time gap, and just thank you for answering that about the confidential informant, because I thought that was fascinating that they literally, that's how your contract, when you sign to use a Stingray, you sign an NDA, and if you need to bring up this evidence in court, it has to be categorized as a confidential informant.
Right.
So,
yeah. Well, it's also when if you get some information from the Special Operations Division of the DEA, that's also they also put that on you, that you can't tell anybody, and I think that's what might have happened when they pulled over the accused twice. That was very strange, because the FBI said they had nothing to do with it, and then it came out that it was a drug interdiction stop in, I believe it was in Indiana.
mm-hmm.
So I don't know if you had a chance to look over what the Special Operations Division, what they say and what they tell you not to do, but that was brought up a few years ago. That a slide was brought up from The Guardian, and I used that in my latest film. So they basically say you can't tell the judge where you got this information. You can't tell the prosecutor. You can't tell the special, any of the attorneys. It's crazy that they're allowed to do this. I mean, I don't think it's fair, but they do it. What
I think is crazy is it's a private company making the government or the local government sign an NDA that they can't talk to them, so they're not liable. And I just don't understand how I don't know how it all works. I might be missing something, but
well, I think it was top secret at one time. It was a very secret piece of equipment that they didn't want to get out. But I mean, it's all over the internet right now. I mean, there's many people that years ago have put out pieces about it. So,
well, and then so you touched base on this one too. We were just talking about the 911 calls,
right?
And so something you said regarding the Stingray devices in that video, and just a moment ago, you were talking about, and this really stuck with me, and I think it sticks with everyone who watches this, is that they're notorious for disrupting and interfering with 911 calls. And there were so many 911 anomalies. And so my question for you is, would you tell us a little bit more about how the Stingray interacts with a 911 call?
Well, I'm not an engineer, so we might have to get Cy Ray on here to talk about that if he's willing to. But in published reports, it has said multiple times that this when they grab a hold of your cell phone, when they lock in on it, these Stingrays, the cell site simulators, for some reason, it won't let 911 calls. It disrupts 911 calls. It won't let it through. It also disrupts text messages. And as this one fellow said from security researchers, it it will change the number where the text message came from. And I'm speculating that it might also block text messages and hold them for a certain time. Have you ever got a text message that's late? It comes like a couple hours late or a day late. I've had that happen to me, but that might explain why Jack D uh, didn't go over to the house. Now, from what I understand is Jack D did get those text messages, um, and he turned his phone over to the um, Moscow Police Department, and they cloned it and gave the phone back to him. But I don't know if the numbers were misconstrued. So, I mean, he might have seen these texts come through, seen the numbers, and said, "Oh, I don't, I don't know who it is. I'm not going to even open it." So there's a question there that has to be answered. But they can, like I had mentioned, there's numerous published reports that, and there's also there's a suit, and I don't remember the name of the lawsuit, but there was a lady who actually sued the government because she said her 911 call didn't go through because of a Stingray. They had surveillance on her house or a house in that neighborhood, and she wasn't able to contact 911. So there's a few people and published reports that say that this does happen, and I would be really curious to ask Cy Ray if he knows anything about that. I think he would be the person to ask.
Well, you're talking to the right crowd. We'll get it back
Yeah.
to Ray for you. Right, live chat.
That sounds good.
There are that actually. I just want to speculate on a couple things really quick. So if
Okay.
the 911 call was interrupted, it could be it could explain a number of things if it was
Right.
this. Like, for instance, we have Kaylee texting, like you mentioned, at right before 3 a.m. in the morning. What if that text message came through something that intercepts it and it didn't look like it was from her number?
Right.
It might have been ignored. It might have been thought of as spam or junk, or it might not have even gone through.
Correct. Yeah.
And then there's another thing, which is I have, I'll just show it really quickly so you know what I'm talking about. But I have this letter from Steve Gonzalez that was sent to attorney Andrew Myers, and this is a copy of it. But the last sentence here, it says, Kaylee's last call to Jack was at 2:56, after which her phone appeared to go offline. So I just wanted to bring that up because I don't know what all this means, but I know that I see that anomaly.
There was one fellow on TikTok who called the FBI and recorded when he called the FBI and claimed that the University of Idaho website went down in that time period. So that's another. I mean, there's so many freaky things or spooky things that happened at that time. It's just it's mind-boggling, really, when you look at it. All the the kids on the band field and all the other things that were going on. I mean, it's just there's a lot of loose ends, and the police, Moscow police wanted everyone's help, and when they got people's help, they didn't tell anybody anything. And so the speculation has gone wild on this case.
Oh yeah.
It's like, yeah.
I mean, and then there's like it even brings up a few other anomalies I can think of too. Like, we've always wondered, and again, we're all just speculating here. We don't
Right.
don't know, but and also, trigger warnings. If you just tuned in, we are a true crime show talking about a crime scene. But it always baffled me why in each room when there was a pair of people, there wasn't that moment to hit 911 or tell Surrey to call 911 or something like that. Could that have been done and been dropped? And I mean, and then the other thing is the questions about the roommates too, texting what they were able to text or not. There was a huge delay. Did this play some sort of role in that? I don't know. But it's all.
Well, I'm not sure that they were actually texting. They might have been chatting, chatting. The we're talking about kids that are 20, 21, and they're doing things much differently than I did in the 70s when I was in high school. I mean, I'm an old timer, or what you did in the 90s. Uh, so that they're using encrypted uh, text back and forth and group text, and also there. This is a weird thing that I just found out, and I'm reading a book about. Um, I should show it. It's called Among the Bros, and this is about fraternities on the East Coast, and what they do. And it seems like the fraternities have a pretty serious drug problem. They're finding that in Pullman, that one officer um, told about how he was using confidential informants, and that's in my film. But one thing that passes a lot of people, and I thought was very interesting, is they found a pill press in a fraternity in Pullman. He didn't mention the fraternity, but a lot of people don't. I don't know if you know what a pill press is, but what they do is it's a pretty big piece of equipment, and what they do is they get powdered fentanyl or other drugs, and they press their own pills to look like authentic prescription pills. And this has led to overdoses. So this guy is saying this happened on the East Coast, and um, that one officer in Pullman mentioned how he uses confidential informants, and he found a pill press in a fraternity. So I think we have to look at this uh, a little more. That the fraternities, there. I mean, there's drugs all around this case, and people don't want to look at it that these kids were involved. They, it's a hard look, but I think if you don't look at it, you're not doing them justice either, and you're not doing the accused justice. Um, there's one other thing that came up that I found very interesting is, and I think Steve Goncalves says about that in that letter about the bank accounts. Now, there's no reason for that I can see is multiple, like 10 bank accounts, and not only on the victims but other people they were looking at. So there is this thing that people have been getting involved in. It's called smurfing, or um, money mule. And basically, what the drug traffickers have a problem with is they make a lot of cash, right? And what are they going to do with all this cash? You can only put $9,500 in the bank cash without tipping off the bank, and the bank tips off the Internal Revenue Service and the DA. So you have to make under $10,000 cash deposits. So what they do is for a small amount, they just deposit this cash in multiple bank accounts. Now, I don't know if these kids did that, but that's how the drug um, traffickers get their money back to that. They basically launder their money, and that's one way. And there's um, the the traffickers are much different than when we were in high school, and it has spread out. They spread out into businesses. It spread out into um, even trafficking avocados. They're they're into everything. They're and to get rid of this cash, um, they'll use cash businesses in the area, like used car or restaurants or so. And I'm just learning this as I research it. I didn't know this before. This is all new to me, but there was a group in the Washington, Oregon area that was using Snapchat to get people to buy their drugs, and they would mail it to them. So this is how people get drugs now. They get it in the mail. It is nuts. It's crazy. But that's the new way of doing things. So I'll probably incorporate some of that if I do another film. But I mean, it used to be, you go to a corner, your buddy has a dime bag of grass or something, and now that's all legal. In California, you can get gummies or anything, but Idaho, it's kind of a weird situation. In Idaho, Idaho is probably the most conservative state in the union, and you have Washington right next to it that is not conservative in Oregon, and so the kids kind of go back and forth. And I'm not sure they even allow medical marijuana. I get different reports in Idaho, so it's very conservative. The demographic is very white. It's they and they have a problem of with some white supremacists in there too. So there's a mix there, and it's not as what everybody sees of this nice little town that this horror came in. And they had some problems earlier, some murders and things like that. But I think what the kids, it seemed like Kaylee was very kind of naive. I believe they probably left the door open, and which we used to do in California when I first moved here. We used to leave the back door open. Somebody didn't have the key. But nowadays you don't do that. And I see that her being somewhat naive from the ad that she wrote when she was going to Austin. Like she said that, yeah, she wrote an ad, and it's kind of it's very sweet, but she seems like she wants to get a roommate. She says, she's got a dog and all that. So it just seemed a little naive to me. So
yeah, when you're telling me all that, it reminded me of that Netflix show, The Ozarks. Have you seen it?
I said parts of it.
Of the show is like how to launder money. But, and I'll give you a copy of that letter too. I'll email that to you.
Oh, that'd be great. That'd be great.
Take a closer look, because Steve does go into detail about each of those bank accounts, and I had a lot of questions too before I read that letter. But I'll give you a copy so you can see it for yourself.
Yeah. But he only talks about 3 or 4, right? Didn't they have 10 bank accounts each?
We can read it real quick. I think he talked about all of them. Here, let me bring it up. And it's the first paragraph here. I'll read it to you. Oops, there. Kaylee had a bank account set up with, Kaylee had a bank account set up for her when she was a child, complete with her own debit card, a practice we follow with all of our children. She was also listed as an authorized user on our Amex card to help her build her credit score. Recently, she purchased a new vehicle, likely coming with its own bank account. So it's like lines of credit. When they say bank account, she also purchased another car years ago, which had a loan, which she paid off. So there's another early. And let me finish the sentence correctly. She paid off a few years early. That was done through a local credit union that also came with a bank account. Prior to this, okay, so what do we have there? So 1, 2, 3, 4.
Mm-hmm.
I guess you're right, like 4. Prior to this, we had been working to set up Kaylee's retirement account. So that could be right there. I mean,
Right.
that could be like 3 to 5, you know.
Right. Yeah.
It's working on retirement accounts, which would likely be reflected in her account history. Given this, it wouldn't surprise me if she had more financial services. So, I mean, if I think about, like, if I was thinking about that age, the other thing I would add is there are a few, like, I mean, I had a Macy's card when I was her age. Like, I wonder, you know.
Yeah, if they're considering that as bank accounts. Well, I hope so. I hope, you know, the other alternative is is not good, because it can, you know, it can take a hit on their reputation if they were doing something. But when you're that age, people are young and dumb, and you know they might have been got involved in something they thought was, you know, very clean. Just, oh, you just put this money in the bank and you get $500, and you know that's that. So it could have been just smurfing that, or there, you know, they had this other thing in Mexico where they were doing calling people about timeshares and saying that we have a buyer for your timeshare. We want to, you know, but you have to pay some legal fees first before you go ahead, and we go ahead and do this. So they would string the people along with this. Every time they thought they had a buyer, they would say, oh no, you got to pay this, you got to pay that. And they got one California Highway Patrol officer who was retired. They scammed him out of $900,000. So it's unbelievable story. So, but on the other end, these call centers in Mexico employ a lot of young people, and when this one group of young people said we don't want to do this anymore, they were all shot and killed by the cartel. Yeah, they were not allowed. I mean, the cartels are going crazy down in Mexico. I mean, there's basically a war going on down there we don't know about. Well, we know about it, but we don't talk about it. So, yeah.
So, well, and that, you know, and all the things you're saying when we do play that final video, it talks a little bit about parallel construction. So I'm glad you added those pieces, which is another kind of subject altogether.
Okay.
They mentioned it in that video, but could you please go over the symptoms that your phone might be affected by one of these Stingray devices again?
Well, the main one is it could disrupt 911 calls. That's the main one. The other one is the text messages come out with a different number. Your phone, the battery drains faster than it should. What is the other one? So the battery drains. You have problems connecting. That could be one. That's you mean on the user end? Is that what you?
Yeah, there was like a little list I saw.
Yeah.
Not sure which video it was.
I don't know if I have it. I think that was basically it. The biggest one is the 911 calls. Let me see if I can. Where is it? Nope. I don't want to lose you here.
Oh, I'll wait for you if you come back. There are questions I'm going to ask. I know the live chat is going to be fascinated to hear, and they're all things that he saw in Moscow. So you guys are going to want to stay for the other.
All right, let's see. I know I have it, but this is this it? Come on. Nope, that's not it.
Heather said this. I thought I like had it on in Discord. Like what?
Oh, okay. Symptoms. Phone is warm when not in use. Rapid battery drain. Degraded or no dated service. Degraded or no voice service. No 911 service, and bad text messages addresses. So
The
that's
addresses, yeah.
yeah, that's the symptoms. Now, on the where did I lose you here? Okay. What that guy that did that film that I copy and pasted and I gave him credit for, he mentioned that this technology is evolving all the time. So what might have happened at that time could be different than now, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So that's one thing you have to keep in mind. And like I said, this equipment might actually be obsolete compared to the Pegasus. The Pegasus, from what I understand, is top notch, and that's the newest out there. And what Edward Snowden was saying, that the NSA basically scoops up everything. They scoop up everything, and then if they find out something happened, then they'll go back and pull it out. So, and they probably go off of keywords too, where if you say, a bomb or a terrorist or something like that,
Oh, at
they,
Moscow.
yeah, or Moscow, yeah. But I found that out, and you probably know this with your phone. If you're talking to a friend about something, all of a sudden you'll start getting ads. And it's so weird. They the computers and the phones and these Alexis, they listen for certain keywords. So they are listening. So you got to be careful.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes I think things and then I see an advertisement for it.
I've had that happen too. Yeah,
What
yeah.
the- so in your experience on Google Maps, and obviously for those who might be just joining us, Michael Addario is a photographer and a visual artist, so he spends a lot of time on these things. But in your experience on Google Maps, have you ever seen so many blurred locations in such a small area?
It seems like that is kind of like the outer. It's very, very suspicious. I actually found another blurred area. Um, but after the crime, they have blurred more things. They blurred a house that some people had said was Emmett Bailey's house. That is not far away, but you can go in Google Maps. It has different dates, so you can go back different dates and see when it was, um, when certain things were blurred, or like when the trees were removed, and it's the same area, like the Queen King Road intersection. You can look at, it'll say later dates, and you can go back and see when it was all overgrown. And well, now they kind of blurred out all the houses, but in most areas you can see that. The very curious one is the water tower, the Idaho water tower. I don't think you were going to ask me about that later.
Yeah, it was.
Okay, all right, I'll wait.
All right. Well, you know what? Actually, I feel like this is one of the best questions I have for you. But I definitely
Okay.
let's talk about the water tower really quick because let me see, which question was that? Oh yeah. Okay, so could you please tell my audience what you found? Oh, wait, that's not the right one. I'm sorry. Many people have speculated which cameras might have caught suspect vehicle number one, as mentioned in the PCA. I really liked your theory about possible camera placement, particularly because Ann Taylor has mentioned this same location during hearings. So could you please speculate to my audience your thoughts about possible camera location?
Well, I think there was a camera, the pole camera at the King Queen intersection. There was one at Linda Lane uh, on in the apartments. Um, if you look at my one film, you'll see me drive through the whole complex, and that will give you an idea of how the complex is set up. The complex is very uh, crowded. It must be a horror story in the snow because somebody did not figure this place out right. It looks like um, you just you go around. There's only one entrance and exit for the complex. That's at the Taylor King Road. Yeah, that's the only way you can get in or out. So it almost looks like to me that whoever was driving around, they said that was pulling back and forth, back and going around, pulling into the parking lot, might have been confused with the address because the address is very confusing. Um, so um, they claim in the affidavit that the that they can see the car pull in to the parking lot in front of 1122 King Road house. Well, there's no camera that would show that because other than the ones that they're not claiming are up. I mean, there's only two cameras that they claim right now. It's the one on the house on the side, and there's the Linda Lane. So how did they know that this car pulled into the parking lot? The only way they could know that is if they had a camera in the water tower, and because there is an area by the water tower that is blurred, and I actually got that from Crime Circus. He was the one that put that up, and I had missed that, but he put that up. And if you go to that area and spin around and look, and this is what I think they're pointing to right now in this shot. If you go to that area and spin around, it's a direct shot of 1122 King Road. You look right in the front door. And before they did the tree removal, it was totally overgrown, totally obscured. Once they did the tree removal, you'll see that it looks right into it. It's very, very suspect.
Well, it's interesting, and I don't know why I never thought about the water tower, but it's even more interesting that I'll have to go back and see exactly how AT references that in the hearing. But
Hmm.
I thought that was really fascinating when I heard you say that. And keep this down and pause it.
Thank you.
Yeah. So could you explain to my audience when this is also something I found really interesting. I heard you saying, and I want to definitely take it to my audience, but we all remember the photograph of the sneakers that were hanging on the power lines when we first learned about the crime at 1122 King Road. You actually tried to take a photograph of those sneakers when you went to Moscow. Could you please tell my audience what you found when you went to that location?
Well, I wanted to photograph the house, and I had waited and waited, and it came to like in November, and there was rumors that they were going to tear the house down. So I did some work. I wanted to photograph Timber Gulch in Eastern Oregon, and I didn't want to get in this area if it snowed because I know I would have been, you know, uh, stranded in the middle of nowhere. So I went in like early November, and I wanted to see if the whole camera was up there, if I could see something. And the uh, there was something on the net. Somebody posted something, and I cannot find it now. Was that they were going to tighten the wires? they had posted that the wires were sagging and they were going to tighten the wires. So I knew, that was it. So I had gone to the area. The sneakers were gone. This was November 7th, 2023. Um, and I took a shot of the area where I believe that there was something that the pole camera or the Stingray was. And I did find two cables that were unattached. That's the only thing I found because I believe whoever went there and uh, took these sagging wires, took the pole cam and the Stingray out because they had already talked about knocking the house down. So I think they wanted to get that out of there. Speculation, but there were two cables, and that's in my film where you can see I did red circles around it where the cables are just hanging, just loosely, like so it could have been maybe somebody didn't get cable TV anymore, or it could have been that there was a pole camera there and they took it out because it was no longer needed. And but everything points to my premise. I believe that house was under surveillance, and it had been for some time. What the police say, that if the house was targeted, if the people were targeted, they didn't know. And even using that word targeted and, passion, it was a passion kill, I think that house, and there's published reports that party house was, doing like a trap house. So it might have not been the victims. It could have been, somebody else or somebody prior, or it could have been a bad address. But I think that there was definitely some dealing going on there, and I think we'll find out about it. It's going to be a hard pill to swallow if that's true. But and I don't understand how Brian. I still don't know how he fits into it. But so far, I don't think they have a case. I think the case is falling apart. So we shall see.
Yes, we shall. We
Yeah.
shall see. I mean, so I think for our last segment, I want to show your latest video, and we were contemplating whether to do it with or without the sound, and I'm just going to do it with the sound. It's fine.
Okay.
I really want to show the audience your work because, in its complete form, it's just so nice. So, but in the meantime, I have started a few questions and comments. But if you have a specific question, we'll take like 5 minutes or 5 or 10 minutes and answer some questions when we're done, and then. If that's good for you. I hope I'm not taking too much of your time tonight.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Okay, great.
I'm enjoying it.
Well, thank you for being here. Oh, of course, I've taken down YouTube. Hold on.
Okay.
Let's see. I don't want to keep too many screens open. It seems to slow things down.
Okay.
All right, so. What is the weather like where you are right now?
It's usually in San Francisco. It's usually cold in summer. Yeah. What happens is if it gets hot inland, it takes the air over the ocean and creates fog, and the fog comes in. It's like 60 degrees. It's crazy. I put the heat on sometimes.
Really? So
Yeah.
I thought that it just stayed kind of the same temperature there, but yeah, you have that ocean effect. So it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Gotcha. I've got your channel right here.
Yeah, it's 64 right now.
I wish it was
San Francisco.
75 degrees here right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's not bad. I'm not complaining. All right. So so we've dropped the handle in the live chat, and actually I'm going to put your banner up, Michael, while we're playing this, just so people know where to go. Got that right there.
Yeah, if they would subscribe, I'd love it. I need more subscribers.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's see if we can get him up to over 1,000. You're climbing up there right now. You're at 1,350.
Yeah.
let's get you up there. So if you guys could just go subscribe, because these 2 videos I'm playing for you aren't, all 4 of these videos are phenomenal. And we could literally play all of them tonight and keep you guys captivated. So I just encourage you to go on your own and look at his entire series. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the 4th installment of the Blow Up Moscow 11-13-22 series. Wait, Michael, is this the right one?
Yeah, this is the latest one. Yeah.
Oh.
The Kaylee, is that the one that you wanted to show? The latest
Yeah,
one?
I wanted to show the latest installment, the one that you had emailed me without the sound. This is it, right?
I sent you a couple, but this is the latest one where I go into if Kaylee was possibly a confidential informant. So
yeah, okay. So this is getting into that parallel construction concept. Right?
A little bit. That was the Doors one. Is that the one that with the Doors?
Might be it. Hold on, let me take this.
Yeah. This one I use the police. Every step you take, I'm watching you. So this might not be the one.
Oh, this is the one this one talks about when Kaylee reports the lady.
Right.
But either way, I mean, which one do you want to show?
Well, this is the latest, so this has a lot of good information in it. So
yeah, I really like this one too.
Yeah.
All right, let's go ahead and show this one. And yeah, if you have questions, leave them in the chat.
Was Kaylee a CI, a confidential informant, or did some mistakenly believe she was one? Was 911 inoperable that night? Was the 1122 King Road house under surveillance? Kaylee, who reportedly bore the brunt of the attack, was described by her parents as a conservative, not involved in drugs, and very concerned about human trafficking. Kaylee had previously reported to the Moscow Police Department when she saw a distressed woman, who had been reported missing, at a local store. Did this incident lead to speculation that Kaylee might have been a confidential informant, also known as a CI, reporting on other issues? In April 2019, Pullman police officer Brock Germer of the Quad Cities Drug Task Force presented to the Pullman Police Advisory Committee about past drug cases and what the task force does. The organization works closely with confidential informants who will purchase illegal drugs in a controlled situation for the task force while undercover. Germer worked a case where a fraternity pressed their own Xanax pills in Pullman. In 2022, Idaho realized the growing threats of dangerous drugs pouring in from the U.S.-Mexican border. The Oregon-Idaho high-intensity drug trafficking area, HIDTA, warned that meth and fentanyl are the most serious and growing drug threats to Idaho.
This one's usually a dead giveaway, but I absolutely do not recommend that you try it. It is illegal. Don't do this. Unless, of course, it's a genuine emergency. But if you try to dial 911 and you do not have 911 service, again, don't do this. But that's a dead giveaway that your device is connected to a cell phone tower simulator. Your friends might get a text message from you, but when that text message comes up on their phone, it doesn't come up with your phone number. It comes up with something odd, like some sort of a 4-digit combination of numbers, but not your actual phone number.
For some unexplained reason, Google Maps decided to camouflage 3 tree areas surrounding the 1122 King Road house. This decision came after a significant clearing of trees and brush, which had left 2 camouflaged areas with a direct visual sightline to the property. Could this have been an attempt to conceal a stationary cell site simulator, also known as a Stingray or pole cameras intended to keep 1122 King Road under 24/7 voice, phone, and visual surveillance. Cell phone analyst Cy Ray testified that he had reviewed documents indicating that law enforcement used a cell site tower simulator, commonly known as a Stingray, to locate the accused. When questioned by the defense about the necessity of using such technology when a surveillance team was already monitoring the accused, Ray found the stated reason for the subpoena disingenuous. This raises concerns whether law enforcement might be employing parallel construction to conceal their earlier, possibly unwarranted, use of a cell site simulator in Idaho. Such actions could potentially violate the Fourth Amendment and lead to suppression of evidence.
I can't hear you. Did we lose you?
I'm sorry, Michael.
No problem.
I left you a message in the private chat too, or a little bit earlier.
Yeah, yeah. I just wanted to say on that parallel construction. I spelt construction wrong on the. I copied it over and I didn't do spell check, and somebody caught it. And then once you publish something like that, you don't want to go in and change it. So I put a little note on it. So that's a little update. Yeah, that's no problem if you want to do that. Show the doors.
And don't worry about the spelling. The bar is extremely low around here. We all
Yeah.
use the dictation anyway. So, yeah, I mean, there's a few great comments. I don't know if we want to get to a couple of them. Just
Okay.
just about some of the things that we were talking about. But I started as we were going along. So we were talking about when we were talking about the Stingrays could possibly be portable. I just started this one because Mike was saying like in law enforcement cars. And I'm sorry.
Yeah, no. Yeah, well, most of them, I believe, are. I think it's unusual that they're stationary. Um, Cy Ray was talking about the ones that he was familiar with, and he was saying that these are vans that cost over $1 million.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so they're all equipped. Some of these surveillance vans even have like little toilets in them, so the guys can stay in it for like 24/7. But I don't know if he actually knew that it was a van or how they were using the Stingray. My premise is they were using a Stingray and it was a stationary Stingray, or cell site simulator, and they had this house under surveillance. That's my belief. there is a couple other possibilities. Um, the this is kind of out there, but the cartels are now using jammers, and some people, we hear in California, they're jamming. Some thieves are jamming Wi-Fi when they break into houses. Um, so it's something that you can actually get over Amazon. It's this transmitter that has multiple antennas, and I've seen pictures of some of the people in cartels, and they all have these on their vest, and it has like four or eight antennas. So that's kind of on the, that's pretty, that's out on the limb, but it is something to think about. So, um, but it seems like if they were in trouble, why didn't they call 911? That it doesn't make sense. Um, and even for the surviving roommates, why didn't they call 911? There is a thing going on with the fraternities, where they get their members not to call 911 first. They want to get their, uh, whoever, the manager of the fraternity, I don't know what you call him, but to talk to him first before you do anything. So these fraternities have to be looked into. They in this book, they went as far as when they hazed one of their pledges, and they really treat their pledges pretty badly. They one kid mentioned that he was waterboarded. Yeah, so it's not like kiddie stuff anymore. So it's something to look into.
Yeah. Oh, that's so horrific. Like literally a torture device of government.
Yeah, yeah.
Heather says, often our government do not obtain warrants to use this type of thing, like the NSA. And I think that's kind of the alluding to the parallel construction that you were talking about. And
Right.
so, and I thought this was, oh, I'm sorry. Were you going to say something about that, Michael? I didn't mean to.
Well, if you play the other film, it talks about that. So maybe once you play the one with the doors, because that gets into it, and it'll take you. That film goes all the way around the complex, and you'll see how the tower kind of looks right down at the house. So.
Well, I'll keep a star on this one, and we'll circle back to this after the video, though. Good question.
Okay.
And I really thought that this was an interesting a question too by Too Fast. He says, if you are in an area, or just a statement, I should say, if you are in an area where you normally get 4 or 5G and you have 2G, you may be connected to a cell site stimulator. It forces your phone to downgrade the signal because 2G is less secure than 4 or 5G. And that kind of alludes to what you were saying about the 5G making it obsolete, why they might be using these Pegasus systems.
Yeah, he's I agree. That has also come out like that. It's wild what it can do. I mean, it's really crazy what it can do. And it's not legal unless you have a warrant. And they do it anyway, and then won't tell anybody. So it's not good. There's actually committees in Washington that are looking into this. And it's every time somebody asks, like the former FBI director, or they have the present FBI director, and they say, tell us about parallel construction, then they're going like, what? I'm not familiar with that term. So yeah, they don't want to talk about it. So
I think that in terms of what you're just saying, I think I'm also going to say we have the next one I had was from, let me unstart this. These have to do with obtaining the warrant too. We had Mike was talking about they don't have to disclose and when, and then Heather starts talking about a congressional hearing. So I'll save these 3 for afterwards. And then just kind of like you were talking about the fraternities on WSU. Oh, I'm sorry. Miranda, I actually had contacted her on X because she had sent me this really interesting article when we were talking about your videos in a different live stream. And
Mhm.
so she's bringing this up right now about Project Sea Glass. And
Mhm.
have you heard of this?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They went around trying to track. They put these they put equipment in like Uber cars, and they tried to track all these like cell sites that shouldn't be there, and they mapped it all up. I tried to contact them, but I didn't get any response. So and that has been um, um, that has happened a lot when I try to contact them about the films, or different people, different agencies. I get nothing back. So
You just
but
keep knocking on those doors, right?
yeah, yeah.
Um, and then just backing up what you were saying, you were referencing a case earlier, and I can't quite remember what it was, but I saw her type this up and I started right away. It said it happened in Grand Rapids, Michigan in 2005. They called 911 and it just rang and rang and rang.
Hmm.
But does it ring or drop the call in the end? I guess we don't. I don't know. Do you know?
I don't know about. I would have to go back and check. The way I remember it is it didn't go through. Um, I would have to pull it up before I could, really comment accurately on it. Um, but I've been using um, Chat GPT for research, and also um, uh, Twitter, or now X. They're Gork, and I find them extremely useful. With a caveat, you have to be careful of what comes out, especially on ChatGPT, um, and but it does give you some good leads and interesting commentary. They are very useful, in my opinion. So AI has helped me with some of these things. So I don't know if you ever use ChatGPT. You ever use that? No. Try it. It's amazing. It really is amazing. And uh, I just saw something on um, LinkedIn where a photographer, that's the big debate of how if it's going to kill photography or not. But he used it in a way that I thought was very interesting, where his mother was very old and infirmed and basically on her deathbed, and he took a picture of that and changed it that she was floating in like a bed of lilies with this nice dress on. It was really amazing. So it has its good points and bad points. Hopefully, it doesn't kill us all.
I
So,
don't know. It's hard to like. I was thinking about this the other day because I was watching a YouTube. Not the other day. I was like today. I was watching a YouTube video and somebody was joking like, "Well, AI is unbiased and blah blah blah," and that's just not true. Like
no, that's not true.
the code isn't sourced from thin air. It's sourced from a
Right.
person. Somebody has to write that code, and that person, no matter how hard they try, is going to be biased and interject their feelings about the world into the software that they program. And
Yeah.
so, anyway, I agree with you on that.
Yeah. You have to be careful. It's like basically anything on the internet. You have to be careful.
I saw I kind of working upward. I have some questions from the beginning, but WSU Mom Kim left one in here that I thought was interesting. What does he know about Finsta, Snap, and Yik Yak? Oh, I don't know. I think is that question for Michael? But do you know anything
Um,
about? You were talking about the encrypted apps, and you were saying this is what the kids are using now. They're not texting back and forth; they're using encrypted messages. And
yeah. Yeah. This is something that, from what I understand, um, that these that they're encrypted. If you open them, they disappear once you open them. I believe that's on Snapchat, and never to be, seen again. So even the police can't get a hold of him. So that's as far as I know. But the kids tend to use them, and I would be curious to know if they were actually using texting each other, especially Dylan and Bethany, if they were not using Snapchat. Because matter of fact, WSU mom said that that's how it went out. It went out in a, I believe that's what she said. It went out in a group chat early on, like at 10 o'clock in the morning. So
Yeah,
I'm looking around my look
but
at in the neighborhood. Yeah. Yeah, well, the college is very into technology, and so was Brian. I mean that he had proposition that he wanted to go work for them, and um, we don't know if they accepted him or not. So he was dealing with the police department along with Kaylee. So that there could be something there. There's also um, in um, in Washington State University. There's also a lab that they run, complex social interaction lab, I believe it was, and what they do is they take body cam footage, which usually after the police come back, they just put it in a holster to get recharged, and after so many days, it's erased. Well, they take all these body cams and they categorize the interaction of how the officer deals with the public, and they claim that um, Brian didn't have anything to do with it. He didn't have access to it, but it's right across the way from his office. I mean, it's just you walk across the plaza and it's right there. And I believe the fellow who signed Brian up that um, said that he was one of the candidates for this internship was the director of that program. So he might have gotten access to that. So those videos, they claim that they didn't take Moscow PD videos, their body cam, but I'm not sure about that. They might have had access to them, but they might have also had access to the cameras in the area too. The closed circuit, because apparently uh, the campus has closed circuit TV all over the place. So, and that wouldn't surprise me. So,
no, not at all. And see, WSU mom Kim was responding to you,
mhm.
and she said, "So let's just say Brian did it. He could have deleted everything after the fact."
um, well, yeah, I guess he could have. I mean, he's a smart guy. We'll have to see about the phone if he was in that park where he said he was. I mean, when I was in Timber Gulch, I lost my cell service, but I still had GPS. So as long as you have open sky, you can get GPS, but the cell service you have to be in the vicinity. So this is what might have happened where they said he turned his phone off. He might have been at the park and not connecting to anything. But if Cy Ray can pull out GPS that he was there, that's going to be a big problem for the prosecution. Now they might claim, oh, he left his phone there and he went back and he did his deed, but I I'm having problems with one person who is a vegan who can't fillet fish and can't eat meat, doing a brutal slaying of four people by himself. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. And they still haven't gotten a connection. He wasn't stalking them. They said that there was no stalking. That was all made up. So um, we'll have to see. I mean, we're kind of looking at this blindly because those other things are, we don't know. if Cy Ray comes out with that, and Cy Ray seems like he's pretty upstanding. I mean, and this first time he ever testified for the defense. So um, if he comes out and saying everything he sees is exculpatory, um, they got a pretty good case. So we'll have to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And I brought this up right as you're talking. Just Twiz was just backing up what you're saying. So the GPS works in the park, but the cell does not. And then right after that, Heather had made a comment that was kind of relevant to that too, where she says, oh no, Twiz made it. 100% they couldn't know if he turned his phone off or not. It's interesting when they have the digital footprint of the phone.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they're making a lot of the assumptions that, as far as the cell phone, I mean, they kind of shot themselves in the foot with saying, "Oh, we had 12 pings, but the one ping we know he wasn't in that area." I mean, so that makes all of that irrelevant. That all that is irrelevant if it pinged like all the other ones that said he was there, but we know the one time it pinged that he's there. It makes that whole evidence bogus. I mean, it's not accurate. And I think I think Cy Ray is just going to nail that on him. The thing about he wasn't stalking them. He that was made up. The cell phone pings are very inaccurate. Um, and and they claim that he turned his phone off. And like he said, you can't tell if his phone was off. He could have been in an area where there was no cell service. So.
Yeah. But if apps for access, they always have access, or only when they use the app? Well, I mean, some of them run in the background. Like, I think she's saying, like, apparently with the GPS, there has to be a signal being sent back and forth. I think that's what Miranda's referencing. So she's saying he would have had to have an app open, but I think we were talking about, I think I've heard people say that there are certain apps that are constantly making that signal back and forth. Because let's say if you ever needed to pull something up, you don't want the phone to be searching for a signal forever. So it's always bouncing back and forth, like Google and stuff.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's constant, and that's another thing that the police are using. These apps that we put on our phones, so they want to know. I mean, we're giving information of what we're interested in and where we're at, and that's considered third party, and so that's very profitable to like Amazon or people retailers that want to sell you something. But it's also that the the police can buy that information also from the same people that give it to retailers. Yeah, so it's we're giving out a lot of information on Facebook, on these apps where we're interested in the lottery or something like that, or all these crazy apps that track us. And there's another thing that about Brian. He has shown that he jogs at night. He jogs with friends at night. Right. He shows that he's a night owl. He's kind of a strange guy. He might be on the, in my opinion, the autism spectrum. I mean, he's very bright, but he's got these weird things that he does, and he has trouble sleeping. But we see in Pennsylvania where people have said, yeah, oh yeah, I jogged with him, and many times that the disc jockey has said that he saw him jogging, and they had a conversation. The disc jockey kind of played it that he talked too long, and he has problems relating to people, and maybe he doesn't I think he has problems with social things. So and people get a little unnerved by that, and he has somewhat what they call like sharp elbows. there was a lot of people that came out and said they didn't like him as a teaching assistant. But nobody, that has been confirmed that he jogs at night and he's a night owl. So him driving around at night, which would sound suspicious to a lot of people, is something that he did, and he's never been accused of any other crime other than the stuff that happened early in his teenage years. So he's a bright fellow. So uh, I'd be very surprised if they nail this on him. He the other thing that comes up is that survey. That survey that he did, if the NSA had gotten hold of that survey, that would have been a jackpot. Like, we don't know who responded to that survey, but he was asking to talk to criminals of how they pick their victims, when they pick their victims, and if somebody responded, even confidentially, they would have loved to get that. I mean, that would have been a jackpot for them. So we'll have to see what came out of that if we ever find out. So.
Yeah, I think Twiz is saying the surveys on Reddit, but you're talking about they would have been able to collect who he spoke with and all of that data.
Right, right.
Very interesting. Find out like who, if he ends up being the one and if he's found guilty, it would be interesting, like who was talking to him and sharing that stuff. Right. And I just wanted to just kind of like elaborate on what you were saying. When I did the Tap to Talk special last week and we read all of them, I had someone in my live chat say the same thing. She goes, it sounds like a 15-year-old boy or 16-year-old boy on the spectrum. So you're not the first person to say that recently when we're talking about those Tap to Talks. Mm-hmm. It's interesting. And then the other thing that might, and I hate even speculating on a condition like this, but, again, we're just speculating here. The issue is spatial awareness, like you were just talking about at the party. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing was somebody else said, yes, and he was spotted by that DJ running.
Right.
And actually, so I have this video clip because Mikey sent it to me, and I did a whole segment on this, but he had his car behind a hiking trail at a gate, and he called 911 in Pennsylvania. And then anyway, that's the only thing they have for him on police record, like you just said. Mm-hmm. And what's really interesting is there was a conversation going on in Discord the other day, which was like, why would there be no record of that cell phone incident? Do you know what cell phone incident I'm talking about from when he was younger? I think you were alluding to that.
When he apparently stole the sister's cell phone, and right. The father made a police report about it, which is unusual. I don't know why he would go to the police about that. It's his home life is a big void. I mean, we don't really know about his. Other than some of the issues that he got, but we don't know about his family and the family dynamics and early childhood, which would, if there was any kind of trauma there, that would, if he's found guilty, I'm sure that'll come up in mitigation. But we shall see. I mean, usually when you look at any kind of serial killer or somebody that does these mass murders, there's something in their childhood that sends them off course. It could be, some kind of any kind of trauma, but that's a whole nother rabbit hole to go down.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to do that on a different one. But I've looked into that on a few other people, so we'll talk about that at another time.
We know so little about his early childhood. You're absolutely right. I've gone back as far as I can go so far.
Yeah.
And it seems like every single community was told to not say anything because nobody's talking. But what I brought up this comment because we've been diving into this. My viewers, my subscribers have been diving into this with me for with me the last couple weeks. And he's bringing up an interview with Bree, which is one of Brian's friends from high school. And she was interviewed by Daniel at the Drunk Turkey Show. And she mentioned that he did a lot of hiking and jogging and spent time outdoors at night, hanging on the porch. So there are every friend that's come forward has almost had the same account.
Yeah. So that's I think pretty much verified that he's a night owl. He'll go jogging at night, which is I didn't know anybody that did that. I think it's kind of security wise, it's a little weird. But some people say he was a creeper, but there's no evidence of that. And he went with other guys, so he didn't seem to scare them or give them any kind of bad vibe. So far we haven't. They don't have a lot on this guy, in my opinion. No DNA in a extremely bloody scene. I don't know how that's possible. To give you, do you want to know my little story on blood?
Yes.
So I broke my leg when I was a teenager, and they had to put a pin in my tibia, and when they did that, they messed up a couple veins in my leg, my varicose vein. So I have a varicose vein in my one leg. So one day I am I wake up and a vein popped, a little pinhole, right, and the blood is squirting out like a stream. And this is like, what am I going to do? So I get to the hospital, and I have a Russian female doctor, and I say, well, what if this happened when I was sleeping? I would have bled to death. And she goes, no, you would have woke up. She goes, sometimes when we do dialysis and they take the IV out, she goes, the blood will hit the ceiling. She goes, it's very impressive. so so you can just imagine this scene. The attacker or attackers would have had blood all over them. When you cut some veins, they just splatter. I mean, it's just a mist, and there's no way that you're going to come out of that clean without DNA on you. So that they can't find DNA in his car. I mean, I had white towels that were pink, even after washing them. I washed them multiple times. There was blood all over the place for a little pinhole in my vein. It was squirting on the wall like a machine gun. So, that's my experience with blood. Anybody that has, cut themselves badly or something, it's a mess. And, it gets all over everything, and it spreads out on water. So there's a possibility that they tried to clean this up, and that latent footprint that wasn't found on the first time and came up on the second time really leads me to believe that they tried to clean up. So somebody tried to clean up a mess. So okay.
Interesting to see it. Oh, it'll be, when we see everything, I just think our jaw is going to hit the floor when we finally see what the evidence is. And if not, then we've got a big problem. So.
Yeah.
What do you say we play that Doors video now?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
All right. Which part is it? Like, which part is it?
I believe it's part 3.
Okay. Oh, that's right.
Yeah, part 3. Right.
Let's see. I forgot when I had this pulled up before, and then I got kicked out of StreamYard. I'm just pulling it up really quickly. Go back to my subscriptions. So while I'm doing this, oops, I just opened up YouTube Music. While I'm doing this, you guys, I just want to remind you, if you could please go to Micah Addario Photography and subscribe. Let's try and get him as close as we can to 2,000 subscribers tonight.
That'd be great. That
Because,
would
I
be
mean,
great.
you give us such good content for this community, and it's just all professionally done, and we love it. It's nice having another professional photographer to help us with these things for our content. All right, I've got it right here. Oh. Okay, so let's see. We've got, this is part 3 right here, I believe. Blow mask out. Yes, this is the parallel
Mhm.
construction.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Your video is so good and it's so well
Oh,
put together. Just
oh,
thank you
thank you.
for your effort. It's wonderful. We had a few questions starred that had to do with this subject. I figured I'd bring them up right now too.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So just kind of back to this question that Heather had said, often our government doesn't obtain warrants to use this type of thing, the NSA.
That's true. That's yeah, they use it, and the idea with the parallel construction is, so they'll get a tip and they'll stop somebody, and they'll use they'll say, oh well, he had a broken tail light or he was speeding or something else, and then they'll find maybe drug paraphernalia or something like that, and then uh, they'll have probable cause to search it. So it is a way that they use it, but uh, people say it's a violation of the Fourth Amendment, and they're trying to stop it. And there are congressional hearings on this with the FBI. Apparently, the FBI has been doing this like mad. I mean, they really and there's hearings and certain senators that want to pull back on this. But every time, I have two videos that I watched where two FBI directors were questioned about this, and they played really dumb, like, what's parallel construction? I mean, I've never heard of it before either. I mean, it's somewhat like a euphemism. Basically, they're withholding evidence, and you should be able to confront your accuser under the Fourth Amendment. And some people had said that when they uh, uh, put this with civil forfeiture, it's really bad. So they get a tip, they come in and they'll seize cash or other property that they say is drug related, and then you have to fight and get a lawyer to get it back if you're innocent. It's and I think that's what the government, these Senate hearings have to do. That's one of the reasons why they're doing it. Plus, it's an invasion of privacy. The stingrays don't just uh, hit one person; they latch on to multiple people in the area. So that's a concern with the civil liberties people. They say, if you're going after one person, that's one thing, but if you hit all of these people, and that's the way it's designed to take a whole group in a certain area and latch onto them. So,
Like a dragnet, right?
right? Yeah.
And then, I mean, as you were talking, you kind of, some of the questions that I had starred, you sort of answered them too, such as they can't even disclose when and used, and which is no, it looks like that NDA, they're not allowed to say anything. And then just what you were saying before, that if you watch some congressional hearings, you'll find people talking about the use of them in Congress.
Right, right. Yeah, they're not allowed to. They'll make up a story. They'll make up a story. If they get an NSA tip, um, this guy is going to move drugs. Um, they'll make up a story to stop the person. They'll say, "Oh, you were speeding," or like in um, Kohlberger's case, you were driving too close to the cars in front of you. Twice they stopped him, and the FBI had said that they didn't have anything to do with that. That was a drug interdiction agency that told those police to stop him. And so I don't know if they got their wires crossed there, or what happened, which I mean, which can happen, but they stopped him twice, and I believe that's where they got their information. That he was driving too close. Um, it's very subjective. And twice within 15 minutes. I mean, it doesn't make sense. So.
And it's funny you said that, because the next one I had starred, which you wouldn't have known, is Twiz says the police know it was targeted for a reason. They just, oh, he's talking about the house. I thought you were talking about BK.
Yeah, that you
Could
know, the house has a history, even without the victims in there. So some of the owners have some. I mean, that whole area has some sketchy people in it. And it's they have one guy that's a sex offender, and then another guy who has some felonies on him, drug related. Um, it's somewhat of a sketchy area there. So, and that's the ones we know about. So, um, uh, when they said that, but that did raise a lot of suspicion in me. Like what, and when the news reporters asked them, "Well, how do you know it's targeted?" And they said, "Well, we can't tell you. You're going to have to trust us." And which that doesn't fly. And the whole thing with, okay, when the alert went out, they said, uh, stay in place, and then an hour after that or so, oh, don't worry, you can leave, you can do what you want, everything's normal, and they didn't have a suspect. My belief is I don't think they had Brian in their view, but I think they were in shock, and it goes to my belief that something was done that kind of shocked the senses of them, and that's why they said that. And they said, well, these can't be anybody in the area. Something out of the norm happened. I mean, out of the norm before, but over and above that, and that's something that I'm looking into now. So
I know I can't even think of what would make them say that. I can. I mean, I've come up with some ideas, but was there something left at the crime scene? What was it? Was it that
yeah,
diagram that they found in evidence? Was that of the house? Like, what was it? Did somebody
yeah.
know him?
I think there was a sign. There was some sign. This it's somewhat similar to the Sharon Tate murders. If you look at my film on the Sharon Tate murders, I mean, they were all stabbed, and they left. That was the Manson family that finally did. They found out that did that, but they left like a message on the wall in blood. They wrote pigs in blood, and I think in the other murder scene they wrote helter skelter, and that was something that Charlie Manson told them to do. And yeah, they were a sick bunch, and still in jail, some of them. So, but that's if you look at my film where Patricia Tate is talking about at parole, you'll see some of those crime. I have crime scene photos in there. Just very briefly, at that time, the police handed those out, and they're pretty graphic. But I only show them for like a second, if that. So, but
I've seen that video, and I even would maybe show it at another time. It's so powerful. I don't know the story through and through. I've obviously heard the story before, but it's so powerful to listen to the victim's older sister
mhm.
talk about her little sister, and I think she was 27, and she was like
Right.
months pregnant, and she was
Yeah,
so beautiful. She just looked like she wasn't even real. She was so beautiful. It's just pure evil what happened in that
right.
scenario.
She looked very much like Margot Robbie, who played her in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which I have. Um, uh, you know, I don't like the way Quentin Tarantino ended that, because he ended it. It was fictitious the way he ended it. I mean, the perpetrators got away, and Sharon Tate and uh, her friends were killed, and brutally killed. But he changed the ending, which I didn't. I wouldn't mind if he didn't use her name, but he used their name, and everything else was pretty factual except the ending. He kind of went off, and I was on some film Facebook page, and I alluded to that, and man, did I get hammered. I got hammered by, oh, that's a fictitious, blah, blah, blah. And I'm there, well, okay. So
Um,
there are Quentin Tarantino lovers that you can't go against.
yeah, I guess you don't want to mess with the Quentin Tarantino fans, but I totally agree with what you said. I've watched some documentaries in the past where it's very clear that it's been skewed in a way to meet the producer or the director's political views. And
Mhm.
that's such a shame, because if you're not doing your best to just tell the truth instead of giving it, if you tell all truth and then one little spin, when we're gone, when I'm gone, when you're gone, somebody's going to come back to that piece of media that's going to last forever, and they're going to
Right.
see this false part of history. And it makes me wonder, like, how many things in history are like that? Like,
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
many times does somebody do some stupid thing and now we just think it's like history, ancient history, that it's
Yeah.
actually.
I would be interested. Oh, did I lose something? Okay, I would be interested in like polling like teenagers that have seen that movie and ask them um, what they uh, what they know about the film, what they know about the ending, if they believe that the ending was truthful or not, and what really happened. Um, and that's what kind of my gripe with that film. I like his films, and my films with the music, they're kind of similar to his. I did get a lot of things that I use from his films with the music, and going back and forth. So I do like his films, except yeah, they're a little. I think lately he's been a little too bloody, but he goes for he exaggerates things, and in the beginning of the movie, it was pretty factual. Had a lot of smoking. I don't know why he did. I mean, people used to smoke a lot, but he had a smoking commercial in it. So that part, I don't know. So. But Margot Robbie was great. She looked just like Sharon Tate. She's one of my favorites. But yeah, it was. I mean, I lived through that time period. I remember what it was like. It was. It kind of. Everything was like summer of love, peace and love, and that kind of messed it all up. And he was in San Francisco. Um, the the whole clan started in San Francisco. The
Oh,
Charlie Manson clan. Yeah, they were here. He would always show up at the free clinic because uh, their group would get STDs and stuff. I mean, the group was very open sexually. So I mean, it was a different time. You have to remember, the pill just came out. There was no AIDS. There was no COVID. The people were kind of going crazy. They thought making love was not a big deal. So yeah, it was a different time. It had to go to bad points, like we talked about other things. So it was it was nice in some ways. And one of the things that I tell my friends about, they comment on the kids not. Um, they're always on their phones, and they don't respect anything. And I said, well, technology has really expanded during that time, from the 60s, 70s, all the way up. They have things that we would never dream of, but we never dreamed of anybody coming into a school and blowing kids away. That would have never ever come into our mind. People walk through the hallways. We that that didn't start happening till I think the 80s, maybe the 90s, but that didn't happen when we were in school. I mean, the door was always open. We never worried about somebody coming in. That didn't happen. So it was a different time.
It is like makes me think of that song. If you're going to San Francisco, that Mamas and the Papas song. When you
Yeah.
said that, just thinking of it, because I heard that. I mean, a lot of artists, as you know, I heard that San Francisco was notorious, like the mecca for people who were trying to get into the music scene
Oh
and
yeah.
Southern California, just in general. But
Yeah. Well, at one point, LSD was legal. It was legal, and they were all doing LSD, and that made the creativity just blossom in San Francisco. I mean, the people, and then there was like um, a lot of political things going on. It was a crazy time. So
yeah.
yeah.
Oh my gosh, I could talk to you for hours. You have so many interesting stories, Nick. But we're already over 2 hours. I don't know.
Okay.
Take any more of your time. But did you see something you wanted to talk about?
No, did we answer all the questions?
I have a few more. I don't know if I'm
Okay.
taking too much of your time. So,
Yeah.
well, let me get to the next one. Let's see. The weirdest thing is when you never said or typed something and all of a sudden, oh yeah, we were talking about this before, when you've never said or typed something and then it's being advertised.
Oh,
So we were saying that before. It's like they're reading your mind.
yeah. Well, there are a couple of videos, or I think I saw them on TikTok that tell you how to turn your phone off because it's listening to you. Um, like some of the phones, if you say Siri, where's the closest pizza parlor, and that's all you have to say, and it'll tell you. Um, so they're listening to you. And the computers listen to you, and they also track you on Google and Zoom. A friend of mine, we usually have Zoom calls on Friday, a couple friends, and we catch up. And we were talking to he was a mental health professional, and we were talking about some of the items that go on in San Francisco, and uh, a drug that they use for schizophrenia causes this action. I forget what it is. It's the if you take this drug for too long, you have you develop tics, like you like squint or your mouth, and so it has this bad side effect. So all of a sudden, I'm getting ads for this drug on Yahoo, and I'm there like, oh, that. I mean, it was so far fetched. We never had talked about that before. So yeah, they're listening to you. You know, so it's something to be aware of. Oh, you got.
I was gonna say I've noticed it for a long time. I remember it with my first smart TV, being like, oh,
Oh
it's
yeah,
obviously listening to me. Like
yeah,
you're not a question now.
yeah,
But I-
yeah. They and the defense took his TV, I believe, and I think Brian's TV. So I don't know how much that records, but apparently, maybe I should find out because I have one too. But yeah, so there might be information that's stored on there. I mean, a lot of these things have information that's deep down, um, and can tell you about your um, all your activities. So it's kind of scary. You get the wrong person in power. A lot of people say, "Well, I don't care." I don't. Um, there's stories about if you carry too much cash and you're traveling through certain areas or in the airport, they'll just confiscate it, and then you have to fight to get it back. So how do they know that you're carrying cash? So that's you don't want to carry too much cash traveling. It's not a good thing because they'll automatically suspect that it's drug trafficking or something. So
yeah, I think there's like a limit too. It's like if you can't go $1, I think you actually said 9,500. I've heard you can't go up to 10,000, or it's like automatic confiscation.
oh well, in the bank they'll put a report if it's $10,000 cash. So what a lot of the mules do is they'll go to different banks, different days, and put $9,500 in. So, that's they're called money mules or Smurfs. So we'll see if any of that comes up in this case.
And then the next one I had starred was Mikey says, excuse to have views from the Patriot Act or the Big Brother Act.
A lot of it came out of the Patriot Act after Bush and Cheney. They were in power. They were doing all kinds of stuff. They were waterboarding detainees, multiple times, and waterboarding is considered a war crime, and we actually executed Japanese soldiers that did that to our soldiers during the war. So they were doing war crimes, and we know. And the thing about waterboarding is it doesn't leave any marks. It's just purely psychological. That and if you ever were in that position where you thought you were going to drown, I mean, it's a horrible position to be in. So, but you could come out of that and look like you just came out of the shower. So, and when they had video of that, they apparently destroyed all the videos, and they weren't supposed to, but they did. So, the government can get away with a lot of things that we would be in jail for.
Yeah, it's really scary.
Yeah.
And then I just want to, right after that, Mikey gifted a membership. Thank you for the blessing, Mikey.
Yeah.
And I thought this.
Oh, great.
Hold on. What did I just had WMSU Mom Kim's up there, and then it came down.
Oh, okay.
Oh, and then Toes said, the NSA hasn't needed a warrant since the Patriot Act, I think he meant to say.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, we have 44 new comments. There's probably more down here. Let's see. Yeah, a lot of these are just statements. Okay, so WSU Mom Kim says, I could only deposit $5,000 a day in my kids' accounts, but had to get money orders in $500 increments. That's a pain in the ass.
Wow.
For the post office to pay their tuition. What?
That's interesting. Is that an ATM or that? That's the first time I heard it was that amount.
But you're not even saying cash. You're just saying you can't deposit more than $500 a day in your kids' account. That's
Well, she's saying 5,000.
5,000 a day in your kids' account, like a money transfer or something.
They get suspicious if you bring in too much cash. They want to, cash is a problem for retailers. It's good and it's bad. If you generate a lot of cash, what do you do with it? Then you got to secure it. These retailers that they get they make maybe $10,000, so they got to get it to the bank. So then you have to get a courier, or a Binks truck, or you're gonna try to go to the bank with $10,000. I mean, we have had incidences where over in Oakland where they'll follow a restaurateur to the bank, and they'll rob her, going in or coming out, or rob him or her. So this is it's tricky carrying cash.
Yeah.
You got to be careful.
And then on a few things I will add to what you're saying. So Heather just wrote, they literally trace every single dollar. Even today, the Secret Service does this. And they make it easier now with all the features on the newer money too.
Right. And apparently with your passport too, they can get a lot of information. So it's, the Secret Service, I don't know how much, they pretty much screwed up on the assassination attempt. That's unbelievable. They, no matter which way your political ways goes. I mean that's just horrible. That such a lapse, and that was the easiest thing to stop. If you look at any of what they're doing in Ukraine with drones, that's a whole nother uh, avenue that has to be dealt with. I mean, it's insane. Twitter is not censored anymore, and they'll post, uh, the what I have, an FPV drone, and the FPV drone is like you can fly it like a bullet. I mean, it's, and what they'll do is they'll put explosives on the end of it and fly it right into a soldier. It's insane. Yeah. So
Falling
the
off my chair, sorry.
yeah, the amount of they just dropped the ball. It's incredible how they dropped the ball on that. So we'll see what comes out of that.
And then I had another one. When you were talking about the drug mules earlier, there was, I started, hold on. This one. Oh, this was talking about cash transfer. So yes, I got snatched by a German Shepherd crossing over from Mexico back to the States in Texas. I was terrified, and I had a pocket full of cash. Got questioned forever.
Wow.
Lesson to be learned.
Wow. Yeah, well, yeah, especially going to Mexico next. There's a lot of stuff going on in Mexico. I don't know if I would go down there. Um, it's pretty brutal. There's a lot of cartels, and they're spreading into the United States. So they're here too. I mean, there's no doubt that they're in the United States. If you read the new DEA um, uh, threat assessment that just came out, it'll tell you what's going on, and it's not good. Not good.
Yeah, it's petrifying.
Yeah.
And we had a few comments just back and forth. They were talking about, let me take this comment down. They were talking about the assassination attempt. And what I found out today, not just because we're on the subject and we're chatting, like I found out something today that I had never, two things that I hadn't heard about this incident. And you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I heard that the shooter had a rangefinder with him. And like that's a pretty obvious thing. Like it's
Right.
kind of crazy. Like why else would he have that on him? And we talk about why nobody took aim at him. And then the other thing I found out today was he brought a ladder with him. and then I actually, there was a third thing I found out today. You guys probably all knew this. I'm just, I study the IDAHO4 and that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
They said that after he had his rangefinder and the ladder, along with his rifle, he gets up onto the roof, and the roof is metal, and inside the building is the headquarters to the Secret Service. Like it just doesn't get. It just like keeps coming. Like
Yeah. I mean, if you, I was talking to somebody, if you had written this in a stories, like a novel, people wouldn't believe it. They'd say that this never would have happened. The Secret Service would have been on him like like a fly on a turd. So this would never happen in a. Nobody would have believed it if you wrote it in a book. And then Trump gets hit and he gets up and he says, "Fight." I mean, it's like, and they take a picture of him. I mean, that picture, that photo is going to go up with that's going to be forever, like the Iwo Jima photo of the Marines putting up the flag in Iwo Jima. That's the famous photo that they made. It's just incredible, the whole thing. And it almost, I mean, a lot of people are saying it's staged, and I don't believe that. There's no way it could have been staged. But it's just, like I said, you couldn't have wrote. And I said, well, he won the election there. It just, I think that's it. He's done. He's got it. But we'll see. So.
I'm just shocked because it's like it's not just that like Mr. Sentinel is saying he was packing a ladder, a rifle, and a rangefinder.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's like for me, where was the question? Because they told them to hold fire. So this guy was in sights for 2 minutes. I know they sent the police up over there, but the second he came down, he said that, and I know that the shooting started shortly afterwards. But
Right.
to me, why did they have to check on the shooter before they took him out, because it's the way that I've always understood, Nick, is like you forego your right to safety if you put that kind of danger on other people. Like, I don't understand where the question was. Why would you be worried about making a mistake like that? It would, I don't know, maybe they were scared they would tarnish Trump's reputation, but the thing is it causes so much conspiracy theory, and
Right.
now we're going days and days and nobody's come out with a cohesive answer. It's just, it just causes so much speculation online. It's insane.
Well, they're going to have hearings on it, so I'm sure that will maybe. Well, I'm not sure, but we'll hope that it'll answer some of those questions, because they're going to bring the head lady of the Secret Service, of that detail, and I think she's the head of the whole Secret Service. They're going to bring her in to testify, so that should be interesting.
Yeah. I mean, just for all of us to hear, I guess, like, I'll be willing to accept whatever they say. I just find it so unnerving that they haven't settled this and quieted everything down.
Yeah.
So, but we're trailing off, and I'm I'm sorry about that.
It's
But
okay.
you're so interesting to talk to, and
Oh, thank you.
I'm just looking to see if we had any more. Let me just make sure I got all the starred questions. I think that was it. Yeah, that was all the starred questions I had.
Okay.
And so I would just like to take a minute to tell you where you can find Michael. If you would let me take down this banner here. So I'm going to put his banner up one more time so you can see his handle. So it's @ and then you can type in his name, and then you'll be able to. Where is Michael? Right here. And then you'll be able to go. Actually, let me put that off scrolling so it's stationary. There we go. So this is where you can find Michael after the show, and please go subscribe to him and support him. Like I said, we only showed half of the videos in this series, so there's so much content for you to go. And if you thought these were entertaining, the other two are just as captivating as these two videos. So I highly recommend going over and watching the series. And you can also find. And I'll link these all below in the bio. You can also find Michael on his website, which is Michael Addario Photography, same as here. And I just highly recommend going to the website too if you're interested in any of these photos, any of his drone work. It's just a bunch of eye candy, and it's a wonderful website. It's so well done. It's a great website to visit. So please go visit his website too. And did I miss anything as far as your contacts you want to share for social media or anything?
I'm on Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter. And what else? I'm on Facebook. I have a Facebook page, Michael Addario Photography. But I think that's it. I did some stuff on TikTok, but I haven't really updated that. What I liked about TikTok was that you could do text to voice. Which I used on my latest video. I tend to like that, and I might start using my own voice, but right now I like the text to voice, and I'm using Adobe Express for the graphics. So I'm trying to. The last one was I used all that, so I thought that got the point across better, and that's basically what all artists try to do: get their ideas out there. So we'll see.
And that reminds me too, while you guys are at Michael's YouTube channel, please check out his Patricia Tate video on Sharon. It's Sharon Tate's older sister regarding the Manson murders, and it is so moving. And it's like a historical document, almost like what you were saying about the Weather Underground. It's her plead as to why this person should not be let out of jail, and the way that she puts it could only be said from somebody who's been through that and had that kind of loss. So it's a very powerful video, and I highly recommend that one too, since all of us are into true crime as well.
Yeah,
So,
and if you're in Los Angeles, vote George Gascon out of office. He's got to go. He's terrible. He's the co-author of Prop 47, which has destroyed California. I mean, it really has hurt California. So that prop is coming up in November to be changed. And the only way you can change a proposition, citizen proposition, is with another citizen proposition. So it's good and another thing that's good and bad. But he's up for election, and we hope that we can rid ourselves of him.
I don't understand how it hasn't been done already. I mean, I know the recall efforts, and I don't usually talk about politics. This is a very local thing. And if
Right.
you don't know who George Gaston, the DA, is, you can look at some of his handiwork. You know, it's right on the streets of San Francisco. So
Yeah.
we all know.
Yeah.
So, and then there's so many victims who are speaking up too and saying, why is the system not protecting me? And there's just story after story. And it's all controlled by who wants to prosecute and how much they want to prosecute. And it makes a difference. People think you just vote along party lines, and you don't. You have to know who you're voting for and who you're putting into offices. Just because they have your same political views does not mean that they have the right merit for the local position that they're in. So I totally agree with you on that one. He's got to go. So
yeah, great.
Sorry to get political with you guys. But anyway, I just want to thank you for your time. I've wanted you to come on the show for so long, and you've been so generous with it. And I hope you do come back. And if you do put out another video, I'll definitely share it with my audience in this series, because it's just so interesting. So.
Oh, thank you, Rose. I really appreciate. I really appreciate you, you know, highlighting my videos, and hopefully we'll come to a good conclusion with this case, and you know, do the best we can to keep the memory of them alive, so we can get a good outcome of this case, and make it as best as possible for the family, the victim's family. So I think we're all trying to, we all have the same idea. I believe that we want the truth to come out, and we're going about it in different ways, and we'll see. Hopefully we'll get there. So thank you again.
Thank you for those words of wisdom, and thank you to the live chat. This has been a really active and fun live chat. Thank you for all your questions and comments. They were great. And this one just stuck out to me. I'll show you this real quick. Tina says she loves your background, by the way.
It's on my website if you want to buy it for your house.
So that's one of your photographs. It's beautiful.
Oh,
that's your drone work. Oh.
Yeah. Well, no, this one I did from the hills, and if you notice that the Transamerica building is right in the center of the tower.
I see that. Yeah, right through the
yeah. So I thought it was a secret spot, and I was up there, and then I was waiting for the light to get. I like to shoot at dusk, and I get one photographer on one side, another one on the other side. So it's not a secret spot anymore. So, yeah.
Well,
but that's what you got to do to get the unusual pictures.
I had such a good time tonight. So along with all of Michael's stuff, when I get done with here, I'll put it down in below. I'm also going to put this whole series. I'll put all the videos. I don't know about do you have all 4 videos up, or do I have an unlisted video?
Well, the ones, no, they're all up. The ones that were unlisted were ones that I took the sound out. And the one I changed the typeface to white, but that's without the sound. I didn't realize that some people have trouble reading red type. I had 3 people comment on that, so I don't use red type anymore. But I don't want to go back and change the old ones, because they have how many views they're on. But in the future, that I won't use white red type anymore. Yeah, the playlist. If you go in the playlist. They're all there with the Patricia Tate film. She's on the very last one.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
Yeah. So if you hit the playlist, you can copy the link to the playlist and put that up.
That's perfect. Then everyone can see all of the videos that we discussed tonight.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Well, thank you again, and
thank you again
for the live chat. And I hope you guys have a great day. See you soon.
Bye bye.